My name is Joseph Malherek. I'm a scholar of American Studies in the History of Capitalism, and I'm the Junior Botstiber Fellow here at the IAS. My project at the IAS is an intellectual history that weaves together the biographies of three Central European figures. Each of them was an intellectual of a sort, but they worked in different professions. They were forced to leave in the 1930s because of their identity as socialists, and Jews compelled them to leave because of the Nazi regime. Specifically, I'm looking at the careers of the Austrian sociologist Paul Lazarsfeld, the Viennese architect Victor Gruen, and the Hungarian artist and designer Laszlo Moholy-Nagy, who made his career in Berlin and Weimar and Dessau as a teacher at the Bauhaus. The interesting thing about these figures, which I'd like to weave together in this biography, is the specific social democratic milieus that they grew up in interwar Vienna, Budapest, and Berlin. Specifically, I'm interested in the ways in which social democratic ideas and forms affected the quality of their work, how that was expressed in their work in Central Europe, and then later how that work came out in a very different cultural and economic context in the United States. The interesting parallel between the shopping center and the Gemeindebauten, which were the public housing projects of interwar Vienna, is the way that they used space to build community. Both developments were designed around central courtyards and malls, and the idea was to bring people together in common spaces and build up a community. Now in Vienna, with the Gemeindebauten, the idea was to instill in the inhabitants of these spaces a social democratic ethos. In the United States, when this idea was translated into Victor Gruen's shopping center, the idea was used to instill a consumer sensibility in American suburbanites. Although the same types of spaces were used, the malls, the central courtyards, etc. So this is one instance where the social democratic context of one of these figures, specifically Victor Gruen, contributed to the development of an idea that took on a new life, as it were, in the United States. Paul Lazarsfeld established an economic psychological research center at the University of Vienna in the 1920s. The idea was to take commercial contracts from businesses in order to fund the research of the center, where various methods would be developed. At the same time, many of the projects that the research center took on had a social democratic idea behind them, such as a famous study on the unemployed of the village of Marienthal. When Lazarsfeld emigrated to the United States in the 1930s, he translated the idea of this research center to the American context. Lazarsfeld's research centers continued to take commercial contracts and do market research and develop methods, but instead of having a social democratic idea behind them, there was a more commercial context for that work. Laszlo Moholy-Nagy was a teacher at the Bauhaus in Weimar and Dessau, and he reestablished the Bauhaus in 1937 in Chicago at the invitation of a group of industrialists who wanted to use modern design methods from the Bauhaus to improve the way that they developed and marketed their products. Although the original group of industrialists who supported the new Bauhaus in Chicago quickly abandoned the project, Moholy found another corporate benefactor in Walter Pepka, who was able to sustain and promote the school, which exists to this day. So ultimately, this project seeks to challenge the bifurcation of economic models. I seek to demonstrate the ways in which an idea of social democracy can be translated in a different cultural and economic environment. By looking at these figures, I'm able to show the ways in which economic ideas may be expressed in architectural and other forms, and through such things as market research.